All right, Anthony Joshua is here, the unified heavyweight champion who is not vain at all with that backdrop behind him.
I've had time to reflect, and if no one's going to love me, I have to love myself.
So what is that moment? Do you remember where that was in that picture behind you and what you were thinking in that moment?
And I remember the build up to that moment, okay? And I will explain it to you. So I remember in the build up to my rematch, look, I'm not going to lie to you, I had my own issues going on, you know, that I said I'll explain one day, but I never wanted to be seen as an excuse. So I just said I took my loss like a man. But what I found is that a lot of my industry friends that were smiling in my face really were ready to stab me in my back when I took my loss. And I was like, okay, so this is what this is all about now. So how it was is that when I said I beat Andy, which I knew I would, I knew the tactics to beat him. I said, when I win, I want everybody to bow to me. The king will stand and he will reign again. And so around that picture, if you look at the video, everyone's going crazy. They just announced my name. And that picture is me saying, I told you. The man who knows himself can never be misguided by other opinions. So it was just a point in my career and in my life where I would always go with my gut feeling because I just knew no matter what anyone told me, don't take the rematch straight away, have a warm-up fight. Andy's got the quickest hands in the division. He's like the Mexican Mike Tyson, this, that. I was just like, boy, I'm 100%. There's no way that boy can beat me, you know? So I just knew where I stood, and that was me just showing the world that I backed myself. And I'm two-time heavyweight champion of the world again. But
when you look back on that, when you look back on that fight, did it go exactly as you thought it was going to go?
Went even better. It was a one-sided fight. It was a classic display of the sweet science of hit and don't get hit, take the belt with ease and get back on the gravy train, you know? Andy couldn't keep up. He couldn't move his feet. He couldn't throw his hands fast enough to keep up with me. And I think I won 11 out of the 12 rounds, if I was to be generous. And I made history in Saudi Arabia, and I became two-time heavyweight champion of the world.
When you were preparing for that fight, I mean, so much went into it. We don't have to go all the way back through it. But did you realize after the first fight, like, this guy's going to be really hard to hurt and knock out, so I've got to change everything?
It was more to the point, not the knockout part, because if I wanted to go for it, I would have gone for it in certain times. Like from the first round, I'd already bust his eye. But that was going against my discipline and my tactic. But it was just to the fact that, you know, tall fighters against short fighters don't mix it inside. It's like the rule 101 that I went against in my first fight. That's a tactical point of view. So from a tactical point of view, it was give him the sweet science, the Lennox Lewis versus David Tua. You know, the stylistic, I wouldn't say the Tommy Hearns versus Sugar Ray, because you know how that went, but the rangy boxer versus the shorter arm boxer. There's a way in what you go about victory, and it's not going in there looking for a knockout. It's the word, if the knockout comes, then you take it, but don't go in there looking for it. And what did come out of that is the victory. And I think that leads on to these conversations that we're having now. And it's so satisfying to speak to you as two-time heavyweight champions of the world right now, rather than saying, man, I tried to knock him out. I wanted to entertain. I just got a bit tired, and he picked up 4 rounds in the later part of the fight, and he just scraped the win. I'm champ, and that's all. And that's what I'm happy about. You can see behind what it means to me.
If you had lost that fight, would you have retired?
No way. I think that shows weakness in my own part. Even now, I sometimes think, you know, as I'm quarantining and isolating, I think, wow, retirement never looks so good. We haven't got nothing to do. So this is an indication of what we're working towards when we want to retire. But at the same time, I still have a burning desire of knowledge, of growth within me. And I think that aside, where do I put all that desire of growth and into? And I put it into boxing. So for me, until I say, you know, I'm content with the man I've become, I think that's when I retire. But at the minute, I still want to grow as a person, and I put all that growth into my sport, and I'm enjoying the man I'm becoming through it.
So you're quarantined. I'm quarantined. I'm sure your house is a lot cooler than mine. But
Mhm.
what does quarantine life look like for Anthony Joshua?
Well, I have no gym in my house. I have no large swimming pool. I'm actually at the family home with my mother, my niece, my son, my cousin. We all kind of quarantining together. So it's nice. And look, there's a pandemic happening across the world, which we're all aware of. But for me and my family, none of my family, fortunately, have had any tragic losses or any massive effects from the virus. So what we try and take this advantage of is spending time, because there'll be no time in a world like this where all of our families are together. Um, Even for my niece, she's 12, my boy's 4. So for them, it will be like they'll be talking about this in the next 20 years. Like, do you remember that time when the whole world was isolated? So it's just trying to create memories for them to take to their friends and their kids when in the future, to say it was a real good time to bond as a family.
Do you, you mentioned you don't have a gym in your house. Are you thinking about, all right, I have to try to stay in shape for eventually when things come back?
So, with boxing, why I chose boxing when I was younger is because it's a sport that you don't really need much. So, you need to keep fit. The reason why we do road work is to keep our legs strong in the later rounds. So, running 45 minutes to an hour is perfect. So in the UK, the guidelines are exercise outside of your house, but to an hour. So I think that's what I do. I sometimes go cycling or I go running, which is enough. And then I shadow box in the garden, which is a lost art of boxing, the art of shadow boxing. So I've been able to rekindle my love for the art of shadow boxing, concentrating for 12 rounds. So by the time this is over, I should be the shadow boxing champion of the world, because that's what I'm working on. And, little things like burpees, press ups, squat jumps, natural body weight exercise.
You were tentatively scheduled to fight Kubrat Pulev in June. When you talk to
Mm.
Eddie Hearn, what does he tell you about future plans?
It's a great question. I think Eddie feels like the fight game will rekindle around, you know, July, August, at small hall shows. But for bigger events and mass gatherings, which we're talking about, let's say festivals, sports events, I just think that will be on the back burner for a while. So until like the NBA announced that they're making a comeback, let's say the hockey league, the NFL, soccer, I just wait and hear what's happening in other major sporting industries before I listen to anyone, because the NBA is one of the biggest sporting events in the world. So until they make an announcement that they're hosting one of their major NBA games again, I don't think boxing will come to pass quicker than that.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think one of the big questions is going to be when, like you said, large gatherings can take place. I think boxing probably comes back first with, closed door shows. But a guy
Mm.
like you, AJ, with, you make like $8-10 million, maybe more on live gates. I mean, if the only way you can fight in 2020 is behind closed doors, would you do it?
It's a great question. Economically, I'm taking a big hit like the rest of the world, even like as I'm sitting here now. And even if I was to come back into my industry, but it's all about growth. I would definitely fight, for the love of my sport. And then economically, I got that hunger in me that, even if I drop $5 or £5 on the floor, I'm turning back to get it. I'm never too big to earn a buck. So 100%, I would fight for less than $8 million. It's a godsend to fight for that kind of money and earn it on a gate. So 100%, I'll take the opportunity to fight, at the drop of a hat.
When was the last time you fought in front of nobody?
I remember this was probably about 2008, well, actually 2009, when I would, people just be looking at me like in Hungary or like a European country, where we would go to a tournament and there'll be like the Cuban team there, the Russian team there, the Uzbekistan team there, and it'll just be like the local Hungarians or someone that were watching. And that was that big guy from Great Britain that was fighting for the gold medal. So yeah, that was 2009. 2010 was like, building towards the Olympics, European Championships and stuff like that, bigger fights. So ever since 2009, I've always been on major stages.
Beyond the economic impact of you would lose out on a lot of money. You're a guy that when you do fight in front of large crowds, those crowds are almost entirely there for you. They're all cheering for you, and they're very supportive of you. How would that impact your fighting if you don't have that kind of support around you? 80,000 fans at Wembley Stadium kind of cheering your name. Would that impact your ability in the ring?
You know what, Chris? I think it will because, when I've had time to reflect, it's been difficult when I come through so quick. You're fighting in front of 80,000 people, whether you like it or not. There's a massive impact on your psyche, on your confidence. That urge to perform. And when I was saying I'm going to come back to this fight game, I've had time to think. I'm embracing it. I'm performing for the crowd. I'm putting my right hand up here, jabbing with that hand. I'm showing people a new side of my skill set. That's what I'm saying about shadow boxing. I've been working on new things. So with that being said, yeah, it would be difficult to fight without the crowd there to entertain. But, a win's a win and it goes down in history. And this is just part of history. So what can I say? If Eddie Hearn put the opportunity and said, listen, I managed to secure the Tyson Fury fight, but it's behind closed doors, I would take it because if I don't take it now, I don't think Tyson Fury would probably be around by the time this will come around again when big hall shows are available. So I have to take the opportunities while they're there is what I'm trying to say.
Could you imagine? I mean, you versus Fury is probably the biggest fight in boxing. Easily the biggest fight in boxing. Could you imagine that fight being behind closed doors?
That is like history in itself. We've managed to secure the biggest fight, what the public have been screaming for, but there's been a national crisis, unfortunately, that we all have to watch from our homes where we are isolating. And at the same time, even though there's been a big economic impact on the world, we're still charging you $30 for pay-per-view. So it's what would we do in that situation? Maybe have an exhibition fight for free and raise money for governments to support people that are struggling.
There'd be people selling media credentials out there to try to get in to that fight if Joshua versus Fury. One of the fights that happened before though this crisis came about, the pandemic came about, was Fury versus Wilder. I mean, a fight that you clearly have a vested interest in the outcome. What was your reaction to seeing Tyson Fury stop Deontay Wilder like that?
Look, I could say a lot of things, but I'm only going to speak facts on this situation. Wilder's had, I think, 10 title defenses with that WBC belt. So I look across the 10 title defenses that he's had, and I say, okay, he's fought Spilka, he fought the big guy, what's his name, early on in his career.
Brazil, or no, that was...
Brazil, Dorfus.
Yeah.
So he's fought Spilka, Brazil, Dorfus. He fought Bermane Stiverne twice. He's fought Ortiz twice.
Yeah.
He's fought Fury twice, and I think he fought Chris Arreola or Molina.
Arreola, because Arreola beat Seth Mitchell that time, yeah.
So Arreola. So within those 10, right, I looked at it and I said, okay, cool. We have Tyson Fury twice, Ortiz twice. And they're the top tier fighters in his 10 defenses. And all of those, 4 challenges that he's had, which are top tier fighters, he struggled with. So I thought, yeah, of course, Fury's going to come back. He come back off a long layoff, and I thought he would come back again and get it right. I know what it means to come so close and have it stripped away. So I just thought Tyson Fury would do exactly what he would do. Tactically wise, I could break that down. But in terms of how he went about it, I just believe that when Deontay Wilder gets to top tier level, it's going to be difficult for him to stay there due to the fact that he had so long bubbling around mediocre fights.
What did you think of the tactics, though? I mean, we've never seen a fighter take the fight to Deontay Wilder like that, kind of bully the bully.
So that's it. So like RUIZ, short, stocky fighter, he likes to plant his feet and punch. So with that being said, you're not going to go walking into a brick wall. You're going to break it down, jabbing, then you throw a right hand. So with Deontay Wilder, he's a long range fighter. So he normally puts people on their back foot. And really leverages off that right hand, comes flying in. So what Tyson Fury seemed to have done is, sat on his back foot and edged forward ever so slightly to put Deontay Wilder on his back foot, where I think that Deontay Wilder struggled on his back foot to a certain degree, which we've seen across different fights. So I think Tyson Fury analyzed the previous fights, realized that if you take away his half decent jab and his good right hand, you know, he was slipping the right hand, so it was shooting over. He had more of a chance in beating Deontay Wilder. So his tactics were spot on. Not only did he have the tactics to carry them out, is another thing, and he managed to do it. And after all the hard work, it paid off. So, you know, we have 2 current heavyweight champions in Great Britain right now. So Wilder, it would be good if he stepped aside. Pulev, it would be good if he stepped aside. And we got this fight on because it's one that the world is screaming for.
Would you have fought Deontay Wilder like that if that Dazn deal had come together last year? Would that have been a tactic you would have employed?
It's easy for me to be like, yeah, that's it. I would have fought him exactly like that. You know, I'm gonna be real. Of course, that's the way to take it. So when you look in a warrior's tool bag, okay, and I look in Deontay Wilder's tool bag of weapons, he has a right hand. So I say, how do we take that away from him? It's hard for a fighter to throw a powerful right hand moving backwards. So we need to put him on his back foot and be dominant in that sense. How do we take away the right hand when he's on his front foot? I need you to practice slipping it, making it shoot over your head, defending it with the lead hand. So these are tactics I would have done. And I thought once I take that main weapon away, there'll be a problem. I've never really seen him hurt anyone with an uppercut. I've never really seen him hurt anyone with a right hand to the body or with a left hook. So when I looked in the arsenal bag, I think that's the way: pressure and take away his main weapon, which is his right hand, and then you're 75% of the way to victory.
So you mentioned it'd be nice if Wilder stepped aside. It'd be nice if Pulev stepped aside. Do you think that's realistic at this point, that you can get them to step aside so you can face Tyson Fury for the undisputed championship?
No, because I do think the championship means a lot to these boys. I respect that. I know what the championship means. So as much as I would like them to, I just highly doubt it because I wouldn't do it. So yeah, unfortunately it won't happen. But if a miracle did come across and they both decided to, I don't need no warm-ups. I'm ready. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, you never would have. I mean, Eddie Hearn kind of said this, but if he had ever gone to you and asked you to step aside, you would have told him, hell no.
Yeah. Look, I know it's easy for me to say that and stuff like that. And after my loss to RUIZ and stuff, you know, it's easy to be underestimated, but I'm so fired up and so passionate and hungry to claim the #1 stake as the heavyweight champion of the world. I'm fighting to hold on to my 4 belts, like fighting governing bodies, fighting fighters, fighting against, you know, Wilder and Fury fans to say I'm willing to fight. So, you know, to tell me to step aside, Eddie's right. I would have told him, hell no, no way. I've got to prove myself, because respect is such an honorable thing to carry, you know, for your family and for you as a person. So I want respect in this division.
You don't do a lot of trash talk on social media, AJ, but were you tempted after Wilder lost to kind of respond in the same way he responded when you lost your titles?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I went into my drawer, I pulled out my long list of things to say. You know, I've got a lot of things I can say about Wilder, but, you know, you don't knock a man when he's down also. And that was at the top of the list. So I have to stand by those principles. But for sure, I think me and Wilder, as I say, are cut from a different cloth. You know, he's what we call, it begins with a B and ends with a H. I'm not like that. I'm more of a man. I don't really get on the internet talking crud. The only times you've really seen me talk recklessly is against Dylan White and against Jarrell Miller. But other than that, I'm an ambassador of the sport. I'm trying to be clean. I'm trying to be represent my sponsorships, represent the zone properly. So I try to stay away from the typical stereotype of a heavyweight boxer. So it's difficult, but I have it in me to fire up and talk recklessly when needed.
Do you think Wilder can win a third fight, or do you think it's a wrap, that he just can't beat Fury?
I never write off any heavyweight, because they say all it takes is one punch. And I think Wilder believed that himself. He said, you know, you got to be perfect for 12 rounds. I just got to be perfect for 1 second. He believed the hype, you know. So, you know, in my opinion, yeah, I think that Fury will go in there and win again. But as I said, it's so true. All you have to do is is catch him with one shot, and the tables can turn quickly. So good luck to them both, and we'll see what happens when this is all done.
You know, the early odds makers have said that if Fury fought you, he would be the favorite. I can't remember a time where you weren't the favorite. I mean, I think you were a slight favorite against Klitschko, and everything else, I think you were a favorite. So
the only reason is because of that Ruiz fight. That's the only reason, and that's why I'm ready to redeem and put trust back into my stable. I get it. You know, after I went through what I went through and made no excuse, it must have seen that Ruiz beat the better man that night. You know, so I didn't make no excuse. So Ruiz must have believed that, yeah, that night I beat the best Anthony Joshua, and that's cool to think that. But I'm working. It's such a shame that I'm in quarantine right now because it's put a halt to greatness, but this is part of history. But I'm working towards beating Tyson Fury. So whether the bookmakers or the believers or the doubters want to be with me or not, I have to believe it. I'm working towards beating, you know, Tyson Fury. And quickly before I move on, it's in a way overlooking Pulev, but I got to look through Pulev because I'm going to walk through Pulev. That's the mindset. I got to walk through him. When it comes to Pulev, he ain't on my level. I'm walking through him. I want the boys at the top. I ain't worried about the boys, you know, around me. I'm walking through them all, and that's the mindset that we have to have as fighters. So I'm looking at Tyson Fury like I'm gonna walk through him as well because I had my issue last year. I got through it, and I want to correct it. And I told you, like, people don't know what that does for a fighter mentally when he loses in front of the world and what it takes to come back. And you know, having this time to reflect has been a blessing in disguise. It's been a blessing in disguise. So we'll see what the future holds. And when Fury and Wilder's ready, I'll tell you this: I will not turn down that offer at all.
is that a different mindset for you than this time last year? I mean, you were thinking Wilder before you were fighting Ruiz the first time. Are you thinking the same now, or has what happened to you last year changed your mindset?
So it has changed. So as I'm not in training camp, like I'm not 6 weeks out where it's just Pulev, or it's just Ruiz. I'm thinking of the whole division. I've got my marker pen out and I'm drawing everyone's name and everyone's in my sight. So at this present time, 100%, I'm saying, all right, if I get through him, then I got him. Then if I can get through him, then I can fight Usyk. If I get, you know, I'm putting all of them into the mix. So 100%. I'm thinking of the wider picture again. I'm feeling like a challenger, an underdog. As you said, I'm not number one with the bookie at the minute, and I've got to put my name back where it belongs. And that's just all that is based on is trust. They have to trust that when I step in the ring, you know, bet against. I'm the house. If they bet against me, they're going to lose, and if they bet for me, they're going to win. I'm the house of the casino. So I've just got to put, you know, trust back into my name, and I was going to do that by demolishing Pulev. I was working towards greatness way before training camp started, but this is, you know, slow things down. But it's fine. I'll be ready mentally and physically when the time comes.
You're one of those guys that had you had a bird's eye view of Tyson Fury coming up because of you know where you are in the UK and where Fury came up. You know, for a long time he was like the guy that punched himself in the face. He was the guy that Steve Cunningham knocked down. I mean, has he surprised you
John
in how far?
McDermott beat? Yeah, man, yeah. Exactly. Yeah, no, he has surprised me, but I believe that every fighter needs time to develop. And I say, like, Tyson Fury has been professional now, like, what, 13 years? Since 2009? What were we in? 2009, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. What's that, 11 years? Mm-hmm. 11 years, going on 12 years. He needed so much time to develop, you know, and he's finally got to a stage where he's found that straw of confidence, you know, so congratulations to him. So I just reflect that. And that's why, as you said, that bird's eye view, when I was studying these guys, Tyson Fury, when I was coming through, and I looked at my career and I said, whoa, I've done what took him 10 years to do in 3 years. Imagine where I'm going to be in 10 years. So I keep on moving through. And I get that I had my little issue with the Ruiz thing last year. But as I always say, another 6 years from now, when I'm, you know, where Tyson Fury is in terms of time, I should be unstoppable because experience and wisdom is one of the greatest teachers. And that's what I'm gathering now, is masses of knowledge about the boxing industry.